what kind of strategies do you have for networking, especially for somebody who's just starting out? Like, where would you go to connect with people, and how would you do that?
So I actually wrote a blog post a couple weeks ago called "Networking Sucks, Do This Instead." And I wrote that because I did spend 10 weeks going to small business networking groups, as I alluded to earlier, and it didn't work for me. I spent a lot of time preparing my pitch. I had an awesome pitch. I had awesome business cards. People would come up to me after the pitching sessions. And some people would come up to me specifically because they liked my business cards, or they said I did a really good pitch. But I think I don't know what it was exactly that I didn't get many email subscribers, and I definitely didn't get any clients from that. I think it was, at the end of the day, people could tell that my energy was so maxed out by spending the time that I did going to the group networking events, that I was unwilling to devote a significant more amount of time going to the coffee chats, as they would call them, and going to one-on-one meetings. So what I recommend that people do instead, if they identify as any kind of introvert or as an INFJ specifically, this works really well for me. What I do is I will search LinkedIn and Facebook for people that are in a similar space as I am, but it's slightly different. And I reach out to them to connect on what we have in common and what I really like about what they're doing. So on that blog post that I referenced, Networking Sucks, Do This Instead, I talk about how to leverage LinkedIn to do this. So what I recommend for LinkedIn is that you search for people in your industry by using the search bar that LinkedIn has. And then when you find someone you want to reach out to, you first request to connect with them. That's so you can kind of get on their radar. And then when you request to connect, also send them a note of like 2 sentences saying what you like about them, and say something like 2 sentences about what you like about them, and say you'd love to connect. And then if they connect with you, then you follow up with a longer message, and you can follow up with a longer message because they're now connected with you. You say who you are, what you like about their profile, and ask them for a conversation, and explicitly say that it's a short, like I call it a speed networking call, and I max it out at 10 minutes. And I tell them 2 questions that I would like to ask them in the networking call. And I tell them the exact questions that I'd like to ask, because some people are super busy and they're not going to talk to you, but they still want to help you out. So that gives them an out to answer the questions in the message. But a lot of times, most of the time that I do this, people do get on a call with me. And so I use the 2 questions that I wrote that I would ask them. I use them kind of as my INFJ crutch. So just in case I kind of freeze up and I don't know what to say to them, I can refer back to those 2 questions that I formulated because I looked at their profile and I looked at some that they blogged about or some kind of social post that they wrote. And I keep the questions really high level, like, what do you like about this thing, or what is your biggest challenge about this thing? My experience is that will lead to much longer conversations, and oftentimes it's the beginning of a relationship, which is so important for when you're working as an entrepreneur and by yourself. And then I also learned that it's such a hassle if you have to go back and forth with someone about when to schedule the call. So I recommend using an app to link with your calendar that will allow people to book a call with you And then we'll also send out reminder emails and reminder texts. And you can also embed a Zoom link or whatever app you want to use to chat with people. I also recommend doing a video call because so much of our communication is verbal. And so I like to quote that 55% of communication, oh, I'm sorry, not verbal, is visual. So I like to quote that 55% of communication is visual. You don't have that visual component to the communication, then you're really losing out on being memorable and standing apart from all the other people that that person might connect with.
Yes, I just want to jump in here real quick and say that's why I'm doing all of my podcasts on video as well, because which you can find at youtube.com/The Quiet Ones Podcast. And that's because it helps me to do the interviews to see the people that I'm talking to. It makes so much of a difference to connect with you when you can see somebody. I used to hate videos, and I still kind of hate them because I don't like being on video. But I love being able to see somebody when I'm talking to them. It helps to connect so much.
Yeah, yeah. And I find that when I am able to talk with someone on video, the conversations are a lot richer. And then I, being a visual person, I will think back to my chat with that person. I'll envision their face or their gestures when they're talking to me in my head, and so that makes it more likely that I'll follow up with them as well.